Okay, this is what mine is on. A couple weeks ago, I started an art book assessment theme, and throughout the rest of this year, we're going to be doing a lesson, and all of them will tie in with the elements and principles of design. And the first one that they had to do was we first of all talked about transportation and how they came to school. And then we talked about the shapes in the vehicles that they rode in, and then they were to do an illustration. Now this one down here is another one of the art lessons that deals with the elements of design, and up here is another page that's in their book. And that of course works with pattern and sequence. And in the second DOK, that was what the students are doing, is the pattern. And in the third one that we haven't done yet is where they use their imagination. And I'm going to teach them imagination jingle. And then they're going to look at Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night. And we're going to discuss how he used his imagination in his work. And then they are going to finger paint using their imagination, a design. And then we're going to discuss that, and they're all going to tell about their work.
Mrs. Hutkins, I know that you're doing a project-based learning activity that is incorporating other content areas. Can you touch on that? And I know that this, because you used a lot of shapes, talk about what your focus is right now as a group, as the specialist.
We were focusing on geometric shapes, and I also did a lot of other activities with the students using the geometric shapes. They did snowmen, they did wintry scenes, they did snowflakes step by step, which also touched in on sequential order, and all the activities that I'm doing, and trying to work in music with it as well. So I taught them like a collar theme, little jingle as well. And you can see other artwork in the hallway, and I don't know what else to say.
You did your snowman, there was sequencing.
Yes, honey, I said that. I told her about
And also, Mrs. Hutkins, what have you noticed in having such focus with this activity? What have you noticed with the students? What gains have you noticed?
Well, they're understanding the geometric shapes a lot better, and sequential order. And we just try to focus on those activities in our PBL. And they're enjoying it.
Yeah.
They love every minute of it.
Yes. And I think that's one of the main things that the students now, with coming to specialists, which they've always enjoyed, but now it's very purposeful, correct?
Yes, yes. And just as an example, the little imagination jingle that I'm teaching them is, I took it from Wake Up Little Susie, and they're gonna sing Wake Up, Imagination, Wake Up, and I think that'll help them to realize that if they use their imagination, they can create anything.
Right. Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rachel Hott. I'm the media specialist and the technology coordinator for the school. And we were actually working on a sequence component, and I was working with the third grade writing teacher, and what we were doing was, with our DOK, we wanted to do how to do a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, because it takes a lot for the kids to be able to do all the different steps. So she initially started this part with the kids, and that we found a paper with it where it actually gave the pictures, and then the kids kind of put the sentences down and worked with that. Once they were finished with that, they came over to, they would go to this part, where then we took this section here and went a little bit further into being a little more specific. Like, we have our ingredients, but what kind of bread? What did it smell like? What did it taste like? We wanted to go into specifics for that. Like, after you get all your ingredients, what do you do with them? And we went through there and we did all the steps through this. Now, Mrs. Amos worked on this part of it, and then when the kids would come to me, I would finish with this part. We would do the editing, and I would ask more questions to get a little more specific, and then I would help them with this part where they took this section, went to this section, and they made it into complete sentences. They went into more detail and went a little more specific. Then we would move over to this part where as they were getting finished, we wanted to know what would happen if we changed something. So we did like, what if maybe you added pickles instead of peanut butter, or just added pickles to the sandwich? And then the kid would have to answer like, well, if I added pickles, then I would probably take out the jelly because then it wouldn't taste so well, and they would go through those steps right there. We actually kind of like that because this was kind of a cause and effect kind of an aspect with it. Then once they were totally finished with it, they would come into my room and we would start with the flip books. And I did this off Read Write Think, which is a phenomenal website. And what they did was we did the ingredients on the first page. The kids actually had to go in and figure out how many tabs they were going to need, what all they were going to do, and then they went in and they edited it and fixed it out so we ended up with a paragraph. So we started with ingredients, and he typed his ingredients on here, like this is the step one of what you need. Sorry, I can't pull it up any further. Stapled. And then we would go into like this is how you would take your knife and put in the peanut butter. We didn't have brown. The kids were really upset, but then they got to change the color as they wanted it with the step 2. Then the 3, they would like the raspberry jam, so they made it like a raspberry color and added into that. And then they went to like, they take the bread with the jam, put it on top of the peanut butter slice. So it was very hard for the kids because they would just say put the bread together, and we're like, well, how would you do that? It doesn't fly together. How would you specifically do that? And then this was the thing that if they wanted to change it and add something else to it, this would be that next step. And then finally, they always wanted to put on that finally enjoy eating your sandwich. And so we had that as the last step. As you can see through here, they actually changed them a multiple of different ways. After they put it into a paragraph form, which Mrs. Amos would then work with them for this, we would go under West Virginia Rights and let them type it out in a full version. And after they typed it out and actually got a score on it, then I actually let them go back to the flip books, and then this is a longer version. This is the full 5-paragraph essay. And instead of doing the steps through here, we started with introduction and did all the supporting paragraphs and then the conclusion. And so we did all the steps through that as well and let the kids play with it. And it introduces Word with them, and then they got to understand like all the different steps of how to make a flip book. And then over here are the kids' options of the cause and effect one. We let the kids, I made the background on it, and then the kids got to add what they wanted onto there, and they got to put this section. They actually told me exactly what to write, and we worded it together, and they got to put different options of what was going to happen. Anything else? Yeah.
Mrs. Hott, as being the media specialist at the school, what do you find is the benefit in incorporating and working collaboratively with the core teachers?
Well, my actual degree is in English, so it kind of helps a lot that as Mrs. Amos is doing it, her and I have a lot of the same beliefs as how we teach the writing process. So it was fascinating to be able to see what she was teaching, and then I could take it to a different level. And we helped each other a lot because there was a lot of aspects that I was like, well, you kind of need to add this, and she was like, oh, well, I do it this way, and it helped a lot with us. And the kids seemed to be a little more willing to work with 2 different teachers instead of just always listening to one teacher. They kind of liked the fact that I had a different point of view as what Mrs. Amos did. And I like the fact that then, as she's doing the writing process, I got the pleasure of doing both. I got to do the writing process, and I also got to bring in my technology parts of it. And so then I got to introduce the different ways to mess with the Word and to change the colors, the fonts, all that kind of stuff, which is technology that the kids are going to be able to have to use.
Mm-hmm. Do you think kids were more engaged? Move over in front of your presentation. Do you think students were more engaged, Ms. Hott, because of the manner in which you all delivered this lesson?
I think they do, because they were they thought we were being silly, but they would say, okay, we would put peanut butter on the bread. And Mrs. Amos would look at it and say, well, you need to add more. And then when they would come to me, I'm like, well, how did we add it? We add it with our finger? Do we add it with our toe? What did we add it with? And the kids kind of liked that fact because they were like, oh, so I have to do this and add these steps. And I think they like the fact that, again, there's two different points of view going in to make their paper. And if you'll notice, some of the kids, they would go from putting 2 slices of bread on a plate, they would then go into put 2 slices of wheat bread on a plate and then cut the crust off with a knife. And so that then goes into a more descriptive paragraph versus just putting it on a plate.
Correct.
So I think we help with it.
Right. With the focus with the Mastery Matrix and actually having a roadmap to follow, do you feel that we're getting deeper with the delivery of instruction with students?
I think so. I think that more than deeper, it's again, it's giving the different points of view, and so therefore, whatever one teacher doesn't think, all of a sudden another teacher might be, aha, this is what we're going, and so we take it into the kids. Like Mrs. Amos shows me levels and how to do things that I never thought about, and then when I add mine into with that, and we meshed ours together, it took the kids into totally different levels of thinking and the steps of process. And so yeah, I think us working together, this is actually encouraging us to do more collaboration than I've ever had, so I really like that.
Also, one thing that is unique to you and your team as specialists within our school is primarily in other schools, you're not really involved in any curricular driven activities. But your team, can you give a brief overview of what your team initiated and has pushed with administratively to be involved in our school?
I mean, like with our PBLs and everything. Yeah, I was trying to incorporate, we're doing 4 PBLs this year, and the first one we did was on a cowboy theme, and we went across the curriculum we actually started with language arts with that one, and socialization and those kind of things, and now we're moving in. We just did one on the triangle, the greedy triangle, and that brought us into math and shapes and all those kind of things, and I was trying to incorporate that with this. We were actually going to make our sandwich into different shapes and stuff, but when I found this program, we kind of threw that out a little bit because this program introduces so much more technology than us just trying to add it on the shapes that we ended up doing this instead. But we're now doing a PBL one for Valentine's Day coming up. We're doing one on the heart and feelings, and we're showing them like the difference between the contrast of what a heart looks like for Valentine's Day versus what a real heart looks like. I'm bringing in different books about Valentine's Day, about health. The phys ed teacher's bringing in activities, and she's going to talk about heart health, safety, those kind of things and stuff like that. And our guidance counselor is bringing in stuff about feelings and consciousness, about making an effort not to, like when they say my heart's broken, and then she wants to talk about stuff like that and want the kids to realize the difference of that. And then we're actually our 4th one's going to be, it's called Chicks and Salsas, the main book we're picking on, and it has to do with multiculturalism. We're going to bring in Cinco de Mayo, and we're going to do a bunch of different aspects with that, and that all should be social studies. So, and I like the fact because then teachers are actually kind of helping us out, and we're, combining it, and it's more PBL with 4 groups, but it's starting to become a little more group-wide, school-wide, more than just our 4 groups.
And are you seeing the level of student engagement within your classroom as specialists improving because of the way in which you all are presenting your PBLs?
Yeah, because the kids are getting more aha moments, because like if Mrs. Lead is talking about something, then I also am reiterating it too, or vice versa, and it's working out a lot because the kids are like, oh, hey, this actually goes together. Because like the first book we were talking about bull riding in one of the stories, and I gave them the whole background of bull riding, and then she actually did a bull riding activity with them, and they were just, shocked with like that we actually knew different things, and we were showing them different aspects and how it all correlated. And then Mrs. Hutkins had them actually draw like a whole bull riding picture, and they did the scenes, and they talked about the history back then, and I think the kids are actually getting a little more connection with it. And I know my books are flying off the shelves. Like whatever topic we cover, I'm basically guaranteed that there's no books that are going to be left in my library with that topic for at least a month or so.
Great, great. Outstanding. Thank you.